video, we left off saying that our basic formula for the volume of a cylinder is the area of the bottom times the height. So we're going to now translate that into variables, which will make it feel a little more confusing, a little more difficult, but it's really not that bad. The first variable is V. I'm going to give you one guess as to what the V stands for. Say it out loud. Good job. It's volume. This big word on the top begins with a V. So the volume equals, I'm going to put R squared times pi times h. So first I want you to think about, where did this r squared times pi come from? It should sound familiar to you by this point. If it doesn't, then you haven't done your homework or watched the videos from Monday and Tuesday. What is r squared times pi? Say it out loud. Good job. It's the area of the circle, the area of the bottom. The bottom of a cylinder is always a circle. And so we can find the area of that circle by using the area formula for a circle. What do you think the h stands for? Say it out loud. Good job. It stands for height. So we have the r squared times pi times height. I'm going to write it in a different way. The way the book writes it is going to be a little different than how I'm going to write it, but that's okay. They write it a couple different ways, but I'm going to write it in a way that makes sense to my brain, the way I do it, the order in which I do it. So it's all the same letters. I'm just changing the order. That's called the commutative property. It means that when stuff's multiplied together, I can write it in any order and it's still going to be equal to the original thing. So I'm going to write volume equals r squared times h times pi. That's the order I do the work in. If they give me these values, I find the radius, I square it, I multiply by the height, I multiply by pi. If you leave the pi symbol in the answer and don't use a number instead of pi, then that's the exact answer. If you use a number instead of pi, like either 3.14, or you can use the pi button on your calculator, we aren't going to use 22/7 like we did on the worksheet for circles. We're going to skip that one. It's not common that we use that, and we're not going to be dealing with the fraction kind of problems we had before. So those are your options. That would be an approximate. So let's try an example of how to do that. Let me go get my example. Hold on. Okay, so we're going to try this example together. I'm going to work on it and you're going to work on it. I'll pause the video during different parts so you can get some stuff done. The first thing I want you to do is, I always like to write, when I have a formula that has lots of variables in it, I like to write the variables off to the side so I can just identify what's the radius and what's the height. I'm going to remind you again, that formula we just wrote down is r squared times h times pi. So the letters that we need to figure out, the variables we need to know the values for, are r and h. In this picture, they have told you enough information to know what r and h are. So you're going to pause the video, identify r and h, and then unpause when you're ready to see the answer. Identify r and h, please. Okay, did you do it? Did you try it? If you didn't try it, pause that video and try it right now. Because if you don't try it without me, you're not going to understand it later. Here we go. I put r is 4 and h is 8. R stands for the radius. It's the radius of the base. Now you might be thinking, Mrs. Lamron, that's not the bottom, that's the top. Yeah, but the top and the bottom are the same size and shape. They're congruent. So whatever this is, the radius here is going to be the same as the radius here. So it's really okay if you use the one from the top as well. The height is always the distance between the two circles on the cylinder. Even if the cylinder was on its side, the height is still going to be the distance between the two bases. Just like my height is 5'7", and when I'm sleeping at night, I don't measure my height differently. It's still from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet, no matter what position my body's in. So if I'm laying down, my height isn't suddenly now a foot. I don't measure like this thickness of my body. I measure the height from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. The height is always from the circle here and the circle here. Even if I knock it on its side, like it's a roll of toilet paper now, this is going to be still 8. Okay, pause the video. I want you to plug this into the formula. Okay, when you plugged it in, you should have 4 squared times 8 times pi, because I just replaced the r with 4 and the h with 8. Pause one more time and put this all in your calculator. I want the approximate answer rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, if you use 3.14 for pi, you would get 401.9. If you use the pi button, you get 402.